Welcome to the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. I'm Jonathan Santiago. With me, as always, is James Ham. Here he is. There he is. And the Kings losing to the Mavericks 107 to 103. Early thoughts, James, of tonight's loss.
Um, this is the type of loss that the Kings need to have. We've talked about this in the past, and I know people don't like hearing it, but this is a perfect loss. They had a good lead. They probably could have won this game. They showed major improvements on the defensive end. The one thing I will say, and I mean, we'll touch base on this on the player of the game later on, because it's going to be down between two players. But Rudy Gay is an absolute joy to watch. And I don't know what happened in Toronto or even Memphis, but my goodness, this guy is an elite basketball player. If the Kings were a playoff team, if the Kings were in the hunt, they're right in the middle of it. Both Rudy Gay and DeMarcus Cousins are all-stars because this guy is tremendous, and he makes our job more enjoyable because sometimes watching a team that's 15 and 31 can wear on you, but not when you get to watch a player that's as gifted as Rudy Gay.
Yeah, Rudy Gay was absolutely phenomenal tonight. At one point in the first half, he didn't miss. He was 6 of 6 from the field. We'll touch on Rudy Gay a little bit more later on the show, but let's go ahead and touch on our three things to watch. And point number one, the question we wanted answered was, does DeMarcus Cousins finally come back from injury? No, DeMarcus Cousins did not play yet again tonight. He's missed 5 straight games now with a sprained left ankle, and now we'll see if he comes back tomorrow. But I don't know. They're going to be traveling again tonight, taking on the San Antonio Spurs on the back end of a back-to-back. Again, travel can wear on an injury like that, and if I had to bet, James, I would hedge my bets on him possibly making his return. Or I'd say it's more likely that he comes back Monday versus the Bulls than tomorrow against the Spurs.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's possible. I know Jason Jones tweeted out before the game that he thinks he's doubtful. I don't know. I like reading Mike Malone, and I had some time with him on Thursday, and his demeanor, the way he talked. DeMarcus Cousins did play a little bit in practice on Thursday, but he was not part of the main drills. Like I was able to watch through the crack in the side of the media wall they dropped down, and I was able to see that they were doing a lot of drills, and they had 12 guys running up and down the court, and DeMarcus Cousins was not one of those 12. So I wouldn't be shocked if he misses tomorrow night. I wouldn't even be shocked if he misses Monday. I mean, this is a flat tire situation. A sprained left ankle can develop into other things. We've seen that in the past with with Tyreek Evans.
And Stephen Curry, too.
Yeah, Tyreek Evans, though, his developed into plantar fasciitis, which, that means weeks, if not months. And so at this point, being cautious with DeMarcus Cousins is a good thing. I mean, clearly he's going to be back. He's going to be back well before the All-Star game if they so choose to, add him to the roster sometime between now and February, 13th, 14th. But I think it's best to just err on the side of caution here.
All right, let's move on to point number 2, James. Which Marcus Thornton shows up in Big D? And Marcus Thornton, well, it's the Marcus Thornton we've pretty much seen all season long, except for a few moments there at the end where he hit a three to get the Kings within striking distance against the Mavs. But for the most part tonight, Marcus finishing 3 of 9 from the field for 9 points. He did shoot very well from 3 tonight, 3 of 4. But, since Rudy Gay has come back, and to me, I mean, he is their third best scorer with DeMarcus Cousins still out, yet he's playing like he's not their third best scorer. Before Rudy came back, the 3 games that they played without Rudy and DeMarcus, he was averaging 24 points per game, and once again, Marcus Thornton not really giving you what he does best, and that's scoring.
Maybe anything, John. He's not giving you anything. I mean, realistically, he scores 9 points in 34 minutes. He has 1 assist. He has 2 rebounds. He has a turnover. He's giving you nothing. Did he play well defensively? I'm not even sure he did that. Monte Ellis was not a huge factor in this game until you look at his stat line. He goes 6 of 10, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. He scores 20 points in 40 minutes. I have a tough time. John, I'm really, really struggling with this. Jimmer Fredette was brilliant in the first half. And I know there's a lot of Jimmer fans, and I don't want to incite the Jimmer debate again in the road recap. But let's be honest, Jimmer outplayed Isaiah Thomas. He outplayed Marcus Thornton. He outplayed Ben McLemore. If this is about wins and losses, Jimmer should be playing in this game specifically. I mean, he was so creative. He hit 3 or 4 of his shots. But realistically, he ran the offense so well. He made so many great passes that he opened up everything. And to not play him in the second half, to me, was an absolute crime. I get that you want to play Isaiah Thomas because he kind of caught fire there in the third and fourth quarter. But you know what? Play them together. You got nothing to lose. Thornton's not playing great defense anyways. McLemore's not playing great defense anyways. Put Jimmer out there and give him a shot. To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder. I think it seems like the story with Jimmer Fredette in his career is that he's incredibly productive offensively. I mean, his numbers suggest that. His PER, for his career is pretty good. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but he's always been able to produce at an incredibly efficient rate on offense. But it sure does seem like whether it's Keith Smart or Michael Malone coaching this team, that they think that his deficiencies on defense just outweigh whatever benefits that he gives you on offense.
I don't get it, John.
And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Yes, he's not a great defender, but what he does do on offense, is incredibly efficient. And to me, I really don't know if he's that much worse of a defender than Marcus Thornton to not maybe get some minutes at the 2 guard spot.
Devin Harris goes for 17, almost 18 minutes, 2 of 7 from the field. That's the backup point guard against Jimmer Fredette. He didn't, or if you want to look at Shane Larkin, neither one of these guys went crazy against Jimmer. It's not like they lit Jimmer on fire and the Kings lost because Jimmer was in the game defensively. To me, the fact is, if you can't hit a shot, if you're not aggressive, if you're just going to sit back and kind of watch things, then you're a waste of time at this point. I mean, Marcus Thornton, sure, he hits. He finishes with 9 points, and one of his 3-point shots, he goes 3 of 4 from 3, came in the final seconds of the game when the game was over. He bangs a 3. If not, I mean, we're looking at a 6-point night in 34 minutes. It's just, what is he giving you? If he's not the only option for scoring, then he's not an option at all. And, Malone talked about being a hypocrite. He talked about Marcus Thornton specifically being horrible on defense. It's time to swallow the $8.5 million for next season and just, quietly put the guy to the bench and let other people play.
Are you suggesting that the Kings, Kenny Thomas, Marcus Thornton at this point?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I'd buy him out. I mean, it's not my money. I guess that's what you always have to say. It's not my money. But, I mean, what is he giving you? I would rather have Trent Lockett. If you're not going to play Jimmer, give me Trent Lockett. Give me someone who will actually play defense at like a reasonable above-average level, who will go underneath screens. I mean, remember, late in this game, it was Monte Ellis running right down the middle of the key, laying a ball up because Marcus Thornton couldn't get through a screen. And how many times in his career has Marcus Thornton fought through a screen? And the answer is like 3. He's fought through like 3 screens his entire career. And that's just the facts. It's like, look, at some point you got to go with something different, because 6 in a row, 15 out of you're 15 and 31. If you keep running the same thing out there, it's not It's not the people who are calling for Marcus Thornton's head that are crazy. If you're expecting a different outcome, it's probably you that are crazy.
All right, moving on to point number 3 now, James. Kings defense and turnovers. You look at the turnovers for the game. The Kings committed 15 turnovers, leading to 18 points for the Mavericks. Meanwhile, the Mavs took care of the ball incredibly well tonight. They only finished with four total team turnovers, leading to four points for the Kings. Defensively, I thought the Kings made some progress tonight, particularly in the third quarter when they came out of halftime. You know, they got off to a 7-0 run, and you know, offensively they were rolling, but I felt like their defense kind of sparked their effort on offense in the third period. They held the Mavs to 7 of 20 shooting. They outscored the Mavs 32-21. Their defense was phenomenal in the third quarter. But the Mavericks seemed to turn up the effort in the fourth.
Yeah, John, overall, I would say the Kings would be happy with 14 turnovers. It's not horrible, but it's not great. I'd say the strange thing, if you're looking at the box score, 10 players played for the Sacramento Kings. All 10 had a turnover. So it's not one player. Rudy Gay, you know, ends up with 3, and Isaiah Thomas ends up with 3. Isaiah Thomas, you know, basically has the ball in his hands the entire game, and he goes for 19 and 6, which is nice. He only shot 8 of 21 from the field, but Rudy Gay was a genius in this game, 35 points on 10 of 16 shooting. So you can excuse both of those players, and then the rest of the team is just well distributed. I thought defensively they played extremely well. It's just really, really tough to win when you are playing on the road and you only force 4 turnovers. And that's a stat of the game. I mean, Dallas with 4 turnovers, and I specifically remember, you know, like McLemore with a steal. There just wasn't there. All 4 turnovers for the Dallas Mavericks were steals by the Sacramento Kings, and that means that they didn't have any unforced turnovers, and it just shows you that they're a veteran team who doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and they're going to feed off of 10, you know, basically 10 extra possessions that the Kings gave them, as far as the 14 turnovers for the Kings versus 4 for Dallas.
All right, James, let's pick our player of the game. You know, I've gone to the losing side of the aisle the last few games here on the Road Reaction post-game show, but I'll go back to the winning side tonight, particularly because he just played incredible, and you know, this is a guy that I think a lot of Kings fans are saying, why is he an all-star? Is this a lifetime achievement award? This is why he's an all-star. Dirk Nowitzki finishes with 34 points on 11 of 19 shooting, 1 of 3 from three-point land. Just phenomenal tonight, Dirk Nowitzki. I mean, he is the greatest player to ever come out of Europe and dominate the NBA. He's done everything at this level. He's been an all-star. He's been an MVP. He's been a Finals MVP. He's won a championship. And, you know, they have a better record. So that's why Dirk Nowitzki is an all-star and DeMarcus Cousins isn't. And, you know, tonight he was on the winning side, and he produced like a winner.
Yeah, he was good, man. He was so good. 11 of 19, and he hit shots in crunch time. He hit shots when you needed him to. He hits those followaways where, you know, he's 7 foot tall with a long reach, and he shoots the ball over the top of his head. And there's just no stopping him. There's no way to defend what he does. But my player of the game, I thought Nowitzki was great. I thought Rudy Gay was better. I mean, call me crazy. I mean, he had 6 assists. He had 12 rebounds. You know, the turnovers, you can accept 3 turnovers when he has 6 assists. He had a steal. I thought he was just so good. And, you know, the Kings getting him back and healthy is just so huge. So my player of the game is Rudy Gay. Again, 10 of 16 shooting, 35 points, 15 of 17 from the line, both career highs. He's set a career high in free throws made and attempts. He's been a dream, man. He's been a dream, barring, you know, you take away the injury, but besides that, holy cow, this guy's good.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think he's a guy who's really he's finally, I think, hitting his stride as an NBA player, and, you know, it's happening right here in Sacramento.
He's elite.
Unfortunately, right now, they have not, you know, wins have not come at a premium for the Kings since he's come here, but he's proving himself to be a very good player, and that's going to do him well when if he possibly hits the free agent market this summer.
Yeah, and also I love Quincy Acy. I love watching him play. He reminds me so much of Michael the Animal Smith that played with the Kings in the 90s. He is just so much fun to watch. He throws down on everybody, and it's crazy. I mean, tonight he finishes with 8 points and six rebounds in 31 minutes. He also picked up 2 blocks. He's a joy to watch, John. If you're going to bring a guy off the bench to pick up some just filler minutes, you can't go wrong with Quincy Acy, and I'd have a tough time believing that the Kings aren't going to pick up his option for it's less than $1 million for next year. He's just way, way too good at what he does to let slip away.
All right, again, the Dallas Mavericks coming out with a 107-103 victory. Final thoughts here as we close out the Road Reaction postgame show. We didn't get to touch on this at all in the podcast. You do have a piece coming up on Sunday talking about David Stern. I think everyone should look forward to that in your weekly Sunday Musings column. You talked to Kings president Chris Granger, who spent a lot of time, obviously, in the league office working with the commissioner, and Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson, who obviously has had a very close relationship, particularly these last few years, with the commissioner in terms of deciding the future of the Sacramento Kings franchise. But David Stern's last day in office, we saw you tweeted a picture of the basketball yesterday. They've already got the Adam Silver basketballs out. Those are going to be in full effect tomorrow. But David Stern, 30 years in office, and he will. I mean, of course, you look at his legacy. There's always going to be good. There's always going to be bad. And when you look at somebody like that who's done it for as long as he has, but overall, I think. Despite some of the black marks like Seattle, letting the Sonics leave, the 1998 lockout, other situations like that, the 2004 brawl in Detroit, which was really not in his hands, he's done a fantastic job. And I think people here in Sacramento, obviously, it's funny to me, I was thinking earlier today, how much the perception of David Stern has changed in the last decade here in Sacramento, because I feel like people... you go back 10 years ago, I don't think many Sacramento Kings fans liked David Stern when the Los Angeles Lakers defeated the Sacramento Kings in the Western Conference Finals, and probably didn't like him too much, after the Tim Donaghy referee scandal came out, and he was claiming that Stern had fixed the 2002 Western Conference Finals in favor of the Lakers. But go back to where they are today, and he basically played a huge role in keeping the franchise here in Sacramento.
Yeah, John, I couldn't be a bigger fan. I think David Stern, for me, I love his intellect. I love his wit. I love how quick he is. And then that's not even talking about the Sacramento side. I mean, if you look at what he's done for Sacramento, it's pretty tremendous. I mean, he realistically, he went to bat for a small market, and he stood up for something that he believes in. I'm not sure that any of us will ever really, truly understand why it is that he did what he did here in Sacramento. I think, you can point to 19 out of the first, 25 seasons were a complete sellout. You could point to something like that. You could point to the Kings being a model small market franchise. But at the end of the day, somebody had to step up and put their foot down and rally for Sacramento. And honestly, it was David Stern. And so while our friends up there in Seattle absolutely hate David Stern, the people here in Sacramento should revere him. He should actually have a statue outside of the new building when it's built, just because of what he's done, what he's meant for the league. I mean, 30 years to the day, which is incredible. What he's taken basketball from 30 years ago to where we're at now. Just think of this. In 1984, Greg Lukenbill and Joe Benvenuti purchased the Kansas City Kings, and then they kept this Kansas City Kings in Kansas City for a year before they filed for relocation. That when they purchased the Kings, they bought it for $12 million, and the Kings sold, basically 30 years later, 29 years later, for $525 million valuation. What type of CEO has made one of his franchises worth $12 million and boost that to $525 million in a 30-year span? It's absolutely incredible what he's done. I've got some great quotes from both Granger and Kevin Johnson. This is one of those pieces that I take great pride in writing because it actually means something to me. I really do love David Stern as an outgoing commissioner, and I'm going to miss him. I think, again, his press conferences have just been genius for years. Watching him light people up, watching him say whatever it is that is on his mind. That guy never, ever gets caught in a corner. He's always ready for anything that's thrown at him, and it's crazy. It's been a wild ride for David Stern, and it's been a joy to watch what he's done over 30-plus years, in the league. What he's taken the NBA from where it was to where it is now.
Yeah, it was fascinating for me to be in a couple of those, and for you yourself to be in a couple of those press conferences.
Yeah, isn't that great? We can say we were in David Stern press conferences. That's it.
Yeah.
That to me, that's a joy. That's it's up there. It's up there as far as the things that we've gotten to do, the people we've gotten to meet. Standing on the court, hanging out with Dominique Wilkins is cool, but sitting in a David Stern press conference is something different. It's something that I think that as journalists we cherish, because you got to see something that someone who just was at a different level, and it's good.
I want to share, before we wrap things up, I want to share one additional story of personal experience with David Stern. I don't have many, obviously, because I'm young and I haven't been around the game as long as many other journalists have, and I've only been able to be around some of his press conferences within the last year because of the Sacramento Kings saga. But I did share a story on Twitter earlier today that I had shared from All-Star Weekend. I do remember this another story from last year when the commissioner was in Oakland, and a lot of the Sacramento media, along with myself, made our way out to Oakland prior to a game that the Golden State Warriors played, I believe, against the Houston Rockets. And, obviously a lot of questions about the Kings situation. And, I was sitting like literally front row in front of David Stern, and I'm trying to get my question in, and everybody's just kind of going and interrupting me. And then he just says, "Young man, you have a question. Feel free to ask your question now." And I'm like, Thank you for giving me an opportunity to finally ask my question to you. And that was one of those moments where you're like, he saw that I was struggling to get in on the question.
On the scrum. There's another one too. I know a lot of people don't know him, but one of our camera guys that not only shoots on the floor but also shoots in the locker room and also was the director of Small Market Big Heart, Tobin Halsey. He's a good friend of mine, has been for a long time. I know there was a press conference with David Stern, and I think it was New York, and Tobin he actually ended up sitting next to Chris Daniels. Chris Daniels had come down a couple of years ago, and he had interviewed Tobin for Small Market Big Heart, so Tobin ended up sitting next to him in a press conference. They know each other. They, exchanged some pleasantries. Well, Chris Daniels asked one of his typical Seattle biased questions, not to throw Daniels under a bus or anything. And so all of the world was watching NBA.com. It's on NBA TV. And there's Chris Daniels getting lit up by David Stern. They keep panning to Daniels with like a deadpan look, like I'm getting lit up by David Stern.
And Tobe sitting right next to him.
And sitting right next to him is our man, Tobin Halsey, having a great time, enjoying the fact. He actually, at one point, he ducks his head because he can't stop from laughing.
He had a grin on his face the entire time. That was the Board of Governors meetings in April that he and I both attended and covered. and I was actually also sitting right next to Chris, but the camera was,
On the
focused
other
on Chris.
side.
I was on the other side, and I too was like tweeting what was being said, and at the same time I'm, thinking to myself, wow, they're just going back and forth here.
Yeah, yeah, and see, that's what I love. David Stern was never going to take anything from anybody. He was always ready. When they opened their mouth, he instantly was looking and searching and figuring out what the question was going to be. And literally, it was like Andre Agassi or John McEnroe standing at the net, and when they were in their heyday, anything that was hit at them they got to and returned. And you're just like, how could somebody stand so close and still be able to volley everything? And that's what David Stern does. To me, I hope Adam Silver has that trait. The things that I've heard about Adam Silver are just so incredible, and things that you wouldn't expect. I always think of Adam Silver when I look at him. I'm just going to go out on a limb and
I know what you're
probably
gonna
throw
say.
myself under a bus. He reminds me of the dean from Community. That's what he does. He reminds me of the dean from Community. I don't even know who that actor is, but that's what Adam Silver always like. As soon as I see him, it's like, oh, there he is. Anyway, what I hear about Adam Silver behind closed doors is that he is so creative and he's a risk taker, and that's just not what I see when I see him. So I'm intrigued to see what he does. I'm intrigued to see if Seattle gets a team. I'm intrigued to see what happens in India. I'm intrigued to see how the game of basketball grows under Adam Silver, because I know David Stern's not going away. It's not like the guy's going to vanish into the desert and we're never going to see him again. He's going to still be around, and we're still going to get to hear him on occasion. He's still going to be a huge part of what the NBA does. But Adam Silver is going to get an opportunity to just do what it is that he's wanted to do. And for 22 years, he's been right there with David Stern, making some of the most incredible decisions in professional sports. I mean, it's not just the NBA, it's professional sports. They've set a standard that's so incredible as far as, you look at the Malice in the Palace. You look at all of the things that have happened, the drug issues, the scandals with Donaghy, what you talked about earlier, all of the good and the bad, the expansion, 7 teams under David Stern. He has done something that is just so special. He's taken a league that literally was like 12 guys playing basketball against 12 guys, and he's made it something global. And he's done it in a different way. The NFL may have stars, but realistically, the NBA is a league of stars. It's something that's special. The way that they promote their players, it's totally different from Major League Baseball. It's totally different from the NFL or soccer. I mean, these guys are put on a pedestal. They have shoes. They have, all of these promotional campaigns that go with the players. It's just a decision that was made a long time ago, and those are the things that David Stern, those are the stamps that he's really put on the game, the way that the game is thought of. And so, again, we're dragging on with this road recap show, but you can get me talking on David Stern forever. If I was ever able to write a book, a historical retrospect on David Stern, I would be so honored to do something like that, because I hold him in the highest regard.
All right, on that note, we'll wrap up the Cowbell Kingdom Road Reaction postgame show. And we'll be back tomorrow night when the Sacramento Kings take on the San Antonio Spurs. So it's a final from Dallas. The Sacramento Kings falling to the Mavericks 107-103. Join us tomorrow after the Kings take on the San Antonio Spurs in the Alamo. For James Ham, I'm Jonathan Santiago. Thanks for tuning in to the Road Reaction postgame show.